Hi folks, hope you're doing well. It's just gone 2 p.m. on the 26th of July 2020. I just had one of those moments. I was watching something about 180 songs that will make today's time better. Something like that. Anyway. And they had the song You're the Voice by John Farnham. Excuse me for that bit. Fantastic song. And when they had that clip on, what I've been doing with that that video is trying to guess the dates of the song. So I guessed that song at around about 85 because it was performed. I thought I remembered it being performed at Live Aid. 1 second. Lucy, where are you going lay down? I'm doing a video. Dozy dog. She's got a collar on. And whenever I'm doing a video, she decides now is the time to scratch the area. Pack it up, you dozy dog. Anyway, back to the point. Because that was noisy. Anyway, yeah. So I checked the release of the song, and it was 86. I'm thinking, hold it, 86. Live Aid was 85. But then maybe it wasn't done on Live Aid then. So I then typed in, was You're the Voice performed at Live Aid? And yes, it was. Yeah, I think it was one of the last songs on it, actually. Yeah. Fantastic, powerful song. Beautiful song. Yeah. Well, as I said, I just listened to this, and there's a lot of songs there, and it's quite the songs. 80s was a weird time for music because you were coming out of the 70s, going into the 90s, and so of course the dance music in the 90s started the late 80s. You got some of that sort of stuff. Then you've got the stuff from early, like Tainted Love. Oh, geez, Tainted Love. Talking about that sort of stuff. I mean, when those sort of songs were out, early 80s, I was 12, 13, just a little kid. Didn't have a clue. Didn't have a foggiest blinking notion as what life was going to be. If I did at that point in time, I would have done things a lot differently. Even at that age, I would have made sure, certainly with regards to my auntie and uncle, I would have made sure that there'd be no way, shape or form I would have invested any of my time with them at all. I wouldn't have, been emotionally involved with them at all because they basically took me on as a way of sticking two fingers up at my dad. Because at that point in time, in the early 80s, they lived on a street, what was it called? Oakhurst Road in Waldersade in Chatham, Kent. And they lived in one house, and more or less dead opposite, more or less, lived my biological father with his wife and son, Stuart. And so, yeah, my auntie and uncle, my auntie was my biological father's sister. And they had problems ever since, when my mum and dad broke up. Kenny went to live with Barbara and Keith. Because, of course, he no longer had a home because his marital home his wife had kept. She was living there with the kids. So he needed somewhere to stay, and he worked with Keith apparently for a while. And, there was a few things that didn't go quite right. And there was always some sort of competition there between them. And it certainly was a case that if one bought a new car, the other bought a new car. If one bought a new house, the other bought a new house. It was silly. And so my auntie and uncle, Barbara and Keith, they basically took me as a way of saying, haha, we're looking after your child that you can even be bothered to look after. So we're far better than you are. But they weren't. That's the thing, they weren't looking after me. Not in any way, shape, or form. Well, they sort of had me come to them from the late 70s. And then 81, on the day that Charles and Di got married, I'd been living with them, my aunt and uncle, for about a year. I'd been going to a junior school, Spinners Acre, in Northwood at the time. And I was always expected to go to the school in the area. Always expected to go into that school, but it didn't happen because of the fact I'd been sort of held over. Because my birthday is in late July, I should have been in the secondary school rather than the junior school the year I went to that junior school. But because my education had been held back because I've been in care and there really hadn't been any education at all, certainly in most cases there wasn't really a focus on education. So, yeah, I'd never done the 11 plus that you had to do. Pass that, you go into a decent secondary school. Fail it, you go into a standard one. I would have expected to go into the standard one. I never expected anything else. But of course, when that year ended, I'd been living with them for a year because I was going to that school. They, during the year, had booked a holiday for them and their daughters. Of course, they were telling everyone, they were telling everyone that they're looking after, their brother's son. And he's like a son to them. He's part of their family. And of course, halfway through the year, they booked a holiday for them and their daughters with the plan of putting me in a children's home while they went on holiday. And in that children's home, that was the first time, well, properly, the first time I was sexually abused in there. So, yeah. See, as I say, it brings back music has a habit because at that time, Ghost Town was a big song in the early 80s. When was that a big song then? Because you had Live Aid. Live Aid was much, much later. At Live Aid, I was in a children's home in Gatland Road, Maidstone, called Gatland House. And I'd only just got there a little while before, so good point. Looking at Ghost Town, because I remember it being quite early. But, yeah. It was the specials, yeah. What year was that? 81 to 81, you see, I got it. No, spotty on. That was a good memory, wasn't it? That was June that came out. June, so yeah. It was July 29th. It was after my 12th birthday. The day after my 12th birthday. They put me into this home where I was then abused. Lovely. That's what you call family, isn't it? But that's why I say, at that point in time when I was 13, there's no way I would have invested. Because if I'd have known that they were doing it just for that reason, and that they were the ones who put me back into care. And it was after that was the time that they put me back into care. When that junior school year ended. They'd already been speaking with social services behind my back to put me back into care. Because they didn't want me. But they were telling me and everyone else that they did. Then they were building their own home, but they were telling me that, there's a room there for me. I knew I was helping out a bit on the build a new home. And I looked at the size of the home, looked at the rooms, knew there was no way, shape, or form there was a room there for me. But they were still telling me there's a room there for me. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah, unless you're going to build on another room when you've already started building the home, that's not going to happen, is it, really? But yeah. So as I say, when I was 13, had I known, I would have invested myself differently. Yeah, there's certain people at the age of 13, there's certain people that I then got to know slightly after. Peter Hodgson, who was at a place called the Coventry Community. Now, Peter Hodgson was a wonderful man. A wonderful man. Wonderful nature. Very, put it this way, he would be capable, if he wanted to, of being quite nasty, if he wanted to. Because he had a habit, and it was quite brilliant, really. Sometimes it was just boys, and we'd get a bit irate at times. And sometimes we'd kick off. And his way of handling it is that he knew where the pressure points were. And he would just put his finger and poke one of the pressure points on the leg. And of course, then we couldn't walk. We could never go at him because we couldn't walk. So after a while, we were sort of begging him to, okay, all right, we'll come. Can you please just release us now? So, yeah. Well, that's what we thought of him. But he was wonderful. He, as I say, education really wasn't the priority there. We didn't really do anything of a normal education at all. He was one of the teachers there, and in his room, you wouldn't really call it a classroom, although you did learn stuff, although none of it have I continued. So we made things, really. We made go-karts because go-karts were great fun. Yeah, we'd go and get pram wheels and just make go-karts and make some really good go-karts. Then we'd do pottery, and we'd learn to make stuff through pottery. Then we'd do weaving and make stuff through weaving. Weaving! Yeah, here we go. We're like 13, 14-year-old boys doing weaving. Pottery is one thing. Weaving? Yeah, but we did it. We loved it because we were learning to make something. We were learning to produce something. And every single time it was coming up to half term, on the last day that we were with him, he would play a game of bingo where the prizes were sweets. And so maybe I can blame him for tooth problems. There you go. So he's partly to blame for that, I suppose. But yeah, he was such a lovely man. Such a lovely nature. He looked like a Cat Stevens type character. Yeah, the sort of clothing he wore and the beard and the long hair, slightly wavy long hair and moustache and a slightly long beard. But such a wonderful, gentle soul. Exactly, I think, what most of the kids there needed. But I say, we didn't muck around with him. I don't think ever, I could be wrong, but I don't think, certainly when I was there for a good few years, I don't think anyone attacked him. Now, a lot of the staff did get attacked by kids. They did. Because a lot of the staff were a bit out of order at times. Peter Hodgson? No. Never saw him be out of order in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I would have invested more time on my relationship with him. And I would have made sure that relationship continued after that. Because he was a person that I'd want to know, is he okay? Is he still with us? But that's it. We don't get to know, do we? We don't get to see that thing, so we don't get to invest our time in a different way in the past. We do now. So the best thing we can do is learn now. I suppose that's the point that, years ago God said to me, stop allowing people to treat you that way, the way my aunt and uncle were. Yeah. Because for years I didn't work. I didn't work because of the fact that they would always tell me how completely useless I was. And as a young person, you sort of believed it. Don't now. Did for quite a long time. And that had a way of just mucking around with you. You start to believe it. They tell you this stuff and you start to believe that that's true. It wasn't really till I gave my life to God that I started to realise, and it was quite a few years after that I started to realise, well, no, actually, I'm not that bad a person, really, considering. Well, I've forgiven these people what they've done. Yeah, I know. I mean, as I say with people, I can't ever put myself in their shoes. So why they did what they did, I don't know. It's not my job to judge them. It really isn't. Same as my biological dad and my biological mum. It's not my job to judge these people at all. It's what it is. I mean, in the late 60s, early 70s, there was a lot of relationships just suddenly not working. And people decided they didn't really want to work at it anymore. As I say, this is a result of really the late 40s, the mid to late 40s, and what was happening then, and the impact that all had on society. So, yeah, can't judge these people. I mean, I know from what my auntie said, it's not something you can, necessarily put any weight upon. But she said that the situation with my biological dad is that he was given an ultimatum by his new partner that it's either her or it's his ex and their kids. And I can't blame her for that. I mean, certainly from what I've been told, I would go to him as an incredibly small child, about 3 years old. When I was with him, I'd be crying all the time to be with my mum. And when I was with her, as in my biological mother, I'd be crying all the time to be with him, my biological father. So maybe that's why I was the one kid out of 3 who was put into care. As I say, you can't look at it from today's understanding. It wasn't the same. I mean, the late 60s, early 70s, it's been the early 70s, this sort of thing was happening. It was a time of free love, a time of all of that. So 2 people tied down, still young, in a marriage with 3 children, certainly with the possibility of the first child not being his, the man in the marriage. So yeah, temptation to just give up when things start getting tough was a lot stronger then than it would have been previously. And as I say, the church failed people at the time. It didn't have any understanding. It wasn't actually reaching out to people and trying to help people. So people had to just make decisions based around how they felt, because that's all they knew. And when that's all you know, that's what you're going to be basing your decisions by. So, no good me looking back, or anyone looking back with hindsight now and saying, well, they should have done this, they should have done that. Unless you're there in that situation, we can't really comment on what people maybe should or shouldn't have done. because you weren't there. So, God bless them. That's the thing. Auntie, uncle, biological father, biological mother. God bless them. And bring them to Him. Oh, that's the point. It's not my job to turn to repent because they've done nasty things to me. They need to repent because they sinned against God, not because they sinned against me. And it is also a case that, as the Lord Himself found, I've spoken to my biological father from a little bit of a Christian point of view because he knew I was a Christian. He didn't take my Christianity, my belief very seriously. He didn't take anything of me very seriously. My auntie as well. I've spoken from that point of view. And again, they're not going to take me seriously because, certainly my auntie knows me as some useless individual. What got me with her, and I think it was right that got me with her, is that she was talking about her grandson. This would have been Mandy's, her daughter's son, describing to me that this grandson of hers, was just like me as a kid. Describing how he, as a kid, was naughty, out of order, badly behaved, etc., etc. And it's saying just like you. It's like, oh, really? I got annoyed by that. It's like, really? Yeah, okay, this kid has had mum all the time. Mum and dad split up. Mandy and her husband, Richard, they split up. Quite a long time ago now. But the child, he got to see his dad. He spent most of the time with his mum. You compare him to a kid who was in care from the age of 4 or 5 years old. You're going from boarding school, foster parents into a children's home. And some of these places you go in were quite nasty. They really were quite nasty. I mean, they're foster parents. Yeah. You had foster parents that if their child did something wrong, you would get the blame. You were the foster kids, you were to blame for everything. Well, that was very common. Because a lot of people just use foster kids as a way of getting some money into the house. They didn't spend any of the money on the foster kids at all. The foster kids are basically, that monkey thing. Don't be seen, don't be heard. That thing. That's the way foster kids were basically seen. And boarding schools and stuff like that. There were some children's homes. I was in a children's home in Patrick's Avenue, and I hated it. The people that ran it, oh my Lord. They lived on the property. They had like a flat in the property itself. They managed it, the home. And they were, from the point of view of an 8-year-old child, this wasn't a good place in any way, shape or form. I was being bullied. I had 2 skinheads sharing my room. And I was being bullied by them on a regular basis. I had a rabbit and they killed my rabbit. Well, they did. And then the managers of the home got all the young kids to perform songs of the day for them. Yeah. And you had to perform it pretty much spot on. And food-wise, if you didn't eat all your food, you couldn't leave the table. And they would intentionally give us food that they know we hated. To me, boiled beans. Hated boiled beans. Hated them. I don't know why anyone likes them. Brussels sprouts and boiled beans. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. But the way you have to deal with it is that you would put all the Brussels sprouts in your mouth, then ask to be excused to leave to use a loo, and then spit all the Brussels sprouts down the toilet and flush it. Because otherwise you'd be sat there all blinking night having to eat these nasty Brussels sprouts. I mean, generally speaking, put it this way, I don't think the place in Patchesbourne was that nasty. It really wasn't. It really wasn't. But that was a mixed gender one, and not the first time there was any version of sexual assault happened there. I was 7 years old, about 7, and a 15-year-old girl tried to get me to have intercourse with her. At 7 years old, it's like, no. But that sort of got me interested in the opposite sex that young, which was incredibly dysfunctional, to say the least. To be introduced to something like that at that age was just wrong. But say, I can't necessarily blame the people that own that place or that ran it for that happening, or for the bullying. You can't necessarily blame them for things that happen while they're there. Yeah, but yeah, trying to get the kids to perform for them was a bit sort of naughty, I think. Although maybe it was them trying to, get the kids to do something that could be fun for them. That's at least what they would say, or could say, and who knows? Maybe they're right. Maybe that was what they were doing. Yeah. From there, I went to a place called Portal House, and Portal House would have been. Yeah, the dates. These are the dates that confuse the heck out of me. Oh, I know I was in Patchesbourne for quite a while, but when till when, I don't know. Because I was in Portal House also for quite a while. Again, from when to when. I know that would have ended around about 80. It had to end in 80 because I spent that year in the junior school. So that would have been 80 to 81. So therefore, Portal House would have ended 1980. When that would have started, I don't know. Possibly 78, maybe. So maybe from 76 to 78, I was at Patchesbourne. Now, before that, I have no idea. I remember possibly Brands Hatch when I was really young, because I broke my leg twice. I broke my leg when I was about 5, and then I broke my leg again at Patchesbourne. They had a swing in the garden. I think I've told this story before. But yeah, it was cool. They had a swing in the garden. I was about 6, 7, I would guess. But yeah, so I was standing up on the swing as you do, because you're older now and you can stand up on a swing. And as I was going up on the swing, I could see someone, so I was waving to them to let go of one hand to wave to them. Then my trousers started falling down, so I let go with the other hand to pull my trousers up. I fell off and broke my leg. At no point in time had anyone said, if you're standing up on the swing, don't let go with any hand at all. But if you have to, always keep one hand on there. Otherwise, you're going to fall off and hurt yourself. Nobody told me that. No. So, yeah. And of course, I've probably said this as well when I was in the hospital there. It was in, God knows what hospital it was. Because that was Gillingham, so it may be Chatham Hospital I was in. I imagine so. Yeah. It could have been All Saints Hospital that's closed now. But anyway, my mum used to walk past me every day. My brother was in, could be the same ward he was in for some reason. So yeah, so that was interesting. I mean, I think, as far as I know, I recognised her as my mother. Although, would I have done? Yeah, because I think I had, when I first went into care, I think that was only as a temporary thing. Then I went back and lived with her for a little while. Then I went back into care. And that's a more permanent thing. So whether Patrick's Spawn was a more permanent thing, so I was incredibly young at the time. I don't remember most of it. But what I do know from now is that if I recognise her, it's quite likely that I'd seen her more recently than when I was 4 years old. Because after 3 years, chances that you'd recognise somebody you last saw when you were 4 years old, even a mother, is quite unlikely. It's possible. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, listening to music. Music can have an interesting point when you listen to stuff from years ago. All right. Yeah, there's been some gorgeously beautiful music over the years, even in the 80s. Some lovely songs with some great singers. I mean, as I said before, we were blessed in that time. The variety of music we had in the 80s was just so different to what we have now. I did something last night, actually, which was an interview done a few years ago, about a year ago, actually, with Billie Eilish. She was on one of the talk shows, and the chap there was saying that, yeah, the thing about Billie Eilish is that she's basically changed the landscape of music, because now people are looking at what she's doing and thinking, oh, we've got to do more of that because that's brilliant. And she herself said, well, on the album there's 14 songs, and the idea is that if I had 14 people in a room, but they were all completely different and all had different things that they liked, that they would all like at least one of the songs on the album. That's what she wrote the album to do. And the thing of it is, I think certainly years ago in the 80s, I think a lot of artists did something similar. Yeah, they wrote songs that, yeah, meant something to them. Yeah, they were certainly, in the early 80s, they were talking about strife, and they were talking about, in the UK, we had songs talking about the problems we had in society, and the way that Thatcher was destroying the North. But some of the songs were actually talking about that sort of stuff, you know. Whereas now, we look at the pop music, it's soulless, most of it. It's when she comes in doing things a different way, focusing very much on the visual, of her videos, her videos of a spider going into her mouth or coming out of her mouth, and blood or black tar dripping from her eyes. That's sort of okay. She's doing something different, and so you can respect that, because as the interviewer was saying, all the music over the past sort of 3 or 4 years has been pretty much the same. Then you come along and do something completely different. So I certainly think it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Where does music go now? I think music is so incredibly important, certainly in people's lives. It always has been. Like I've said about the church, the problem with the church is that you've got all these people in their 60s and 70s using church as a community centre, singing songs that they can look back on when they were young. That's what music is. It's a beautiful thing that can take you back to times when you were young, times when you were innocent, when life was more innocent to you. When things were beautiful, when things were just fun. Whereas a kid, you would change the lyrics and joke a bit about, songs because that's what you do because you were a kid, because you were silly. Yeah, whereas an adult, you can't do that sort of stuff anymore. Such a shame. Aye, yeah, such a shame. Aye, indeed. But that's the point. As you get older, yeah, those days seem so far away. But they're not, because as soon as you listen to one of those songs, you're right back there. And that's the beauty of that. But that I've said with regards to people in the church, yeah, if you want to listen to that music, fantastic. Yeah, if necessary, if you haven't got a CD deck, then maybe the church should buy you one. So you can meet up, and maybe on a Wednesday evening, and fill your boots with music from the 1940s, 50s, 60s. Fill your boots, go on. Old hymns, go for it. Yeah, there's lots of CDs of old hymns out there. Get the CDs, meet on a Wednesday night, all your old ones, and fill your boots with all the old stuff. But leave the church be and let God run the church how he wants to. It certainly is a case now that, if I go to a church and the church is, doing all delirious songs from the olden days of Christian music, I'm just going to walk out. I don't want that stuff. That was stuff that was good then. The stuff now that's good, Christian music. Casting Crowns, fantastic. Sadly, I can't say anything else. Jeremy Camp has been good over the years. Mercy Me, been good. Third Day, been good. So there are some good Christian groups up there. Females, there's some good female singers as well in that sort of thing. I mean, I'd certainly say For Him, but also one of the best. Spring Harvest do some good stuff. Bethel Music, that Raise the Hallelujah, fantastic song. Newsboys, there's some good songs. I mean, they're still pretty up to date, aren't they? I think. Wow, that's incredible. We Believe, that's quite a recent song to me. That was 2013. Okay. I thought that was a bit more recent than that. Okay, but For Him, again, if the church was only doing their songs, was focusing upon their songs or songs from the era, I'm like, no, come on. Stop that. The whole point of worship, you're supposed to be singing a love song to God. It's not supposed to be a love song to the people in the church, reminding them of when they were young. It's a love song to God. So you get the best love song you can and love God. Let the people have their throwback music whenever they want away from church. If they want to take Sundays and have that at home, one of their homes, and they all can meet there, go for it. If you're a churchgoer, the church would be far better off with you meeting in someone's home and playing your old day music, rather than you coming to church and suffocating it. So there you go. All started off with listening to 180 songs that will make you forget today's problems. But it doesn't. The reason why it doesn't is because it's over in 11 minutes. Now, if they'd done 180 songs, the full songs, that would last for a good, 4 times, at least 4 times that amount of time. A good hour, say. Now, that hour, steeped in songs of the past, would help you to forget today's problems, for a little while. Just 11 minutes of it? No. But I'll link the video into this one, so you can each have a listen to that if you so wish. Okay? You take care, God bless, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.